Well, the good music just keeps on flowing, even though it's kind of a little bit of a mad dash to the end of the year. I keep finding new bands and new artists and new albums to dive into. So, yeah, without further ado, let's cover another one. The Indifferent Stars by Heaven of Echoes. So Heaven of Echoes is a little bit of a conglomeration of two well-known artists within the kind of symphonic metal aspects of the UK progressive rock. You know, we've got Paul Sadler from Spires and Andreas Hack from Frequency Drift. They put their songwriting ship, their song constructions, their orchestrations together within this piece to create thoughtfully lyrics and emotionally vocal performances to the forefront. Yeah, you can definitely hear that. Like, this album is very much a showcase of these two's vocals. Both of their vocal works on here. The harmonies that they're able to produce are haunting. Like, it's reminding me of some of the stuff that we would get from like Antema or Anathema, as I pronounce them. But even like I Am the Morning. There's a lot of haunted vocal works in here. There's a lot of that kind of Victorian Gothic aspect to this, but it's presented in almost like a modern neo-prog outfit. And I know that's a little contradictory in that sense, but like I'm thinking of bands like, say, Airbag, that kind of subdued style of the neo-prog sphere. And I'm really finding myself gravitating to a lot of these tracks. Now, to help round out this album with Paul and Andreas, you've got Nasera Swartz and on electric harp and keys, as well as Wolfgang Osterman on drums. And Andreas Hack is being attributed to all other instruments on here. It's very fun and deep, dark prog in that sense. Like, there's not a whole lot of cheerful sounds on here, and you can kind of get that right off the beginning with Siren Song, which has this very foreboding and dark aspect. It's very rooted in this much more dark presentation with not like a whole lot of swelling soundscapes on here. It's much more of like distilling the mood, distilling the vibe, rather than bringing about this grand statement of music in that sense. The Orator's Gift continues this as the second track. And I love the rhythm section on here. The drum work that's being conducted by Wolfgang, it really does need to be applauded. Like, his master of the rhythms goes beyond just the drumming work. Like, he doesn't have these like massive fills or these grand verbose moments, but he's able to set the stage by creating such a lively and fulfilling drum track on here. The third track of Stasis is channeling that like Brit pop from like the late 90s, early 2000s that was doing a lot more experimentations. Like, I'm thinking of bands like Muse or most prominently Radiohead, where they were doing such like experimentations within this more dour outlook, like looking beyond grunge within the rock sphere and trying to distill this very cathartic, angsty aspect of it. And I think Stasis kind of continues that motif on here. It's got that same kind of dour, that same kind of darkness that's found on here, but there's a lot more lively aspect to it. Like, there's a lot more life to it. And when we transition into the fourth track, into the second half of this album with End Time, that's where you're getting a lot more of this Muse aspect of it, especially within the rhythms and within the root of the track. I really do appreciate and enjoy more of the synthesized sounds on this one, and it does kind of fold it into the track and make it their own, rather than just being a carbon copy of like an Anathema track. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this more atmospheric aspect of the band, and it's not just like a blow down the doors. And the other thing that I like is like these tracks, like some of the longer tracks, like this one being the second longest at just over 9 minutes, gives the band space to really build up and bring down these tracks so that we get a little bit of a crescendo, kind of a pull down, a little bit more of a crescendo, and then kind of a little bit more of a come down. And this is definitely found within the fifth track of The Lord Giveth. I love the soundscapes that they're using on this one, especially near the end of the track. I'm loving some of that production work that these guys are utilizing in here. I'm loving how they're able to really get the essence of what they're trying to put down in this very chaotic, very maelstrummy soundscape. Like, I almost feel with the amount of emotion that the lead singers are putting down on here, I'm almost feeling like this is what Leprous would be sounding like if they want to edge their toes a little bit more into the rock style of things rather than the gothic metal side of things. And I actually ended up liking The Lord Giveth more than I think the last two albums from Leprous. So like if you're a fan of a Leprous in that case, you're really going to enjoy The Lord Giveth. And I also love the fact that the title of this track leaves the connotation of what the track is actually about, you know? So in that case, I really do kind of like the wink and the nod that the band gives to the audience. The build-ups and the payoffs on this track are just glorious. You know, I love how they're able to set up this song to really pay it off at the end, to really give back to the listener. And the final track of Let Them In is the longest track. It's 12 minutes and 15 seconds. It really does summarize the entire album very, very nicely and very well. It has the entire gamut and facets of this band. You know, it's got a lot of that darker passages. There's a lot more dourness on there, but there's also a lot of ebb and flow. So every time that they start to skirt a little too much into that darkness, a little too much into that dourness, there's always something to bring it back up into the light of day. There's always something that's either a lyrical piece or an inflection on a guitar or just like a tone that they're utilizing on the synths that bring this back from just being completely like obliviously like blah and dour. And the ending sequence of this track, this guitar play out that they have, really does end this track and this album off on a very nice high note. So yeah, the Indifferent Stars, being the debut album from these guys, I believe, from Haven of Echoes, was a really great treat. You know, if you're a fan of this kind of darker side of like a contemporary prog, or even like these kind of like neo-progs, like a modern neo-prog in that case, I think you're really going to like it. As I mentioned, there's flavors of like Anathema on here. There's even flavors of like Leprous on here. They're really synthesizing like this corner of progressive rock very, very well into how it has shaped and formed currently. You know, it's very much, I don't want to say like a melting pot of all these styles into it. It's much more of like a buffet that you kind of take little bits and pieces here and there and then make a stew all your own. So yeah, I had a great time with this one. And it's enough to say The Indifferent Stars from A Haven of Echoes is one that I would absolutely download. You know, there's enough on here to make you want to return for more. It's a really great debut album and has got me excited for whatever they have left in store, if this is a one-off or if this is the first of a series of really, really great albums. Yeah, I would recommend it to anybody that likes this a little bit darker, a little bit sharper, kind of progressive rock. But if you're kind of a fan of more of that, like get up and go, very happy and joyful stuff, you might want to look elsewhere. But I had a great time with it, and I hope you do too. So that's what I've got for The Indifferent Stars from Haven of Echo. What did you guys think about this album? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Whatever you thought, please let me know by commenting down below. And I think that's all I've got for you guys today. That's all I got. So thank you all so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.